This is the Sick'em Podcast, powered by Rogue Media Network. The Sick'em Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Katy Smith and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sick'em Podcast, powered by Rogue Media Network. John Morris, Katy Smith, and right around the corner, so it's cold outside as we record this, but right around the corner is spring and baseball and softball, so let's talk some Baylor baseball today.
Isn't that wild? I mean, time really does start flying. Like, it feels like basketball has just started and then baseball is so close. But who better to kick off this baseball season than Zach Dillon, our new assistant coach. So hitting coach and recruiting coordinator. So a lot of new faces on this staff, but some familiar faces too. And so Zach Dillon being one of those. So Zach, welcome back to Baylor.
Oh, it's so great. So good to be back and so good to start this journey this spring. We're excited to get going.
Yeah.
And it is welcome back. You played here and were a really good player during your time here. And Mitch gets the job. What was that initial conversation like when Mitch is starting to fill out his staff?
Well, I think there were a lot of conversations over the last decade probably about this time, potentially happening at some point. And I think it, in all of our minds, it was kind of just a pipe dream or a long shot or whatever you want to call it. But it's a place that's so special to he and I and Jim Blair that, I think we all held out hope that one day this day was coming. Yeah. So, I certainly think it's a God thing that it's come to fruition, and here we are, and now we've got a lot of work out in front of us to get it going again.
Mitch doesn't mince any words. I mean, he says it's his dream job. I mean, he's always wanted to come back here, and it's just so great, because of all the history, that he brings with you and with so many people coming back.
Well, I think the alumni pulse was pretty unanimous as far as who they wanted in that seat and who they wanted in that chair, starting with me, whether I was going to be a part of it or not. And I think his road speaks volumes to what he feels about this place and this community and Baylor in itself, that he's not a guy that was lacking for job opportunities around the country when he had to leave Baylor, and he chose to stay here. He chose to, in our world, probably take a step back and go over to McLennan, but he didn't take McLennan any lighter than he takes his position here, and it showed. He excelled at the highest level and in that program and took them to new heights, winning the national championship and producing just team after team of really talented kids and got them all to the next place exactly how you're supposed to at that level and produce some really good prospects as well. So, he is so deserving of what has the opportunity of doing right now, and we're all excited to be by his side. Yeah,
so fun when people come back, right? It just kind of feels right, and it speaks to that kind of that Baylor community. And so what about that kind of drew you back into this job?
Well, I was enjoying my own leadership role at a lesser level in travel baseball, but something I was passionate about and growing the game at that level and really creating opportunities for kids from the age of 9 through 18 and being able to share my expertise with not only families and the players, but the staff I was able to work with, and we were building something really cool. So I wasn't in a hurry just to jump back into college baseball, but this situation for the right guy, the right place, the right time drew me back in and couldn't be more excited to be back in, quite honestly. I think we've got a special thing going. We've got a special group of people in that office over there, and we've got good kids, and I think the one thing that's stayed consistent over the 22 years I've been involved in the program now, and that predates me, is the type of kid that comes to Baylor and the type of kid that comes to play baseball at Baylor specifically. They're all pretty similar.
Yeah.
I think you could, kind of pinpoint who fits and who doesn't pretty quick in this place. So we're excited about the kids we have. We're really excited all to work together and be on this journey and this mission together.
Wow. You talked about what you were doing prior to coming back here. 12 baseball down Katy area.
Yep.
What was that? Tell us what that looked like.
Well, so actually my last college coaching job with Mitch over at McLennan, I had been at University of Iowa and Mississippi State and Baylor in 2012 for the 2012 season. So I spent about 7 years in college baseball.
It's a good season to be back, by the way.
That was a good year to
That
was a good year to hop on. That was a good year.
If you're going to come back for 1 year,
we could do a couple more of those.
Exactly. Let's do that again.
That was a lot of fun. So, no, I think, for me, it was time to kind of stabilize my career, and that was an opportunity I saw to do it. It was an opportunity probably financially to make up some ground. If you spend enough time in this, at the level I was doing it at, it's time to make some money.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident in myself and ability to go into a situation like that and have the ability to create structure, create a leadership platform, and be able to really structure a program and practices and hire staff that fit, I think at the highest level of baseball. So, when you bring a college mindset or a professional baseball mindset into travel baseball and you do it that way and you live up to it and you work every day like it's a really important thing, what happens is you kind of start to elevate. And I found that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Our standards were really, really high for that level. And what it did was create a program that's developing players at a really high level, and getting players placed at a really high level. So, I think, in my 6-year period there, we put over 300 kids into college baseball.
Wow.
I think we'll have a first rounder in this year's draft. We've got kids playing all over the country right now at the Division I level. I'll have to compete against a bunch of them this year. So,
right.
But we had 2 kids on the USA 18 and under national team and all the way down. So I think what we were able to do is build a reputation of the people to go to at that level of the game in the state of Texas, or at least in the South Texas, Houston area. And very proud of that time.
Nice, sure.
Very proud of that time. So I had former alums Trevor Moat and Corey Van Allen by my side. So along with a bunch of other really good staffers and former college baseball coaches too. So we were able to do some cool stuff, and hopefully that'll help us in recruiting, having all those contacts down there. So
absolutely,
Yeah.
You got great contacts.
Yeah, exactly. So knowing the other side of it, right? The parents, the recruits, the kids, and what they're looking for. How helpful has that been to be on the other side to now be recruiting those kids?
Well, it's really twofold. Kind of have a head start.
Yeah.
For a full cycle of high school kids that in certain areas of the state and really around the country. I've sat in the rooms with the major influencers in travel baseball, the guys with all the players. I know personally and they know me, and I think that's a huge help. And that's a similar situation for Mitch at the junior college level with the best junior college coaches in the country. There's a level of respect. There's a level of we want you to do good because it says something when somebody takes a chance on a junior college head coach, right? Or the travel ball guy, those guys want us to do well and succeed. So, we've got our people that we trust around the country and we trust their evaluations of guys. And, I think they trust us in handling the kids the right way, which is a rarity at certain levels of this right now. So, we're going to go into it with that approach. I think the second thing, I did this for 7 years. And in the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, I was in all 3 of those leagues. I did it at McLennan. And I learned more in my 6-year time period in travel baseball than I ever would have learned, staying at the college level.
Right.
Because nobody shares how they work at the college level. You're just figuring it out as you go. I had a firsthand seat with all the kids that were recruited out of our program and how different institutions were recruiting players and what their approach was and how they were handling them and handling those conversations or scheduling camps for the younger guys and how they were doing all those things to be able to kind of create a buzz and create interest amongst the different classes in our state. And I think, there's a fair amount of that we're mimicking, we're stealing.
Yeah.
So, But at the same time, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to trust our eyes and go watch games, and then we're going to select our players. We're not going to collect our players. So,
Ooh, I like that.
I like that too.
You know, and I think there's a lot of collecting going on, and then sorting it out later.
Huh.
You know, kind of a draft and follow or a commit and follow model, where they almost hold the kids hostage over a 3 and 4 year period, and then decide later, which can be done now. And I think what's happened on the college baseball side is once the transfer portal was instituted, you know, that the loyalty factor went out the window, you know, in that regard. So when a kid can leave you at any moment, you better have enough behind them.
Yeah.
And they can leave you for a variety of reasons. Maybe you said something one day they didn't like, which can happen in coach-player relationships. Maybe. I think it's a challenging time in our sport. And I hope we can get some of those things righted to where, you know, it comes back to the middle a little bit on some of these issues. But at the same time, you know, we're going to be in the fight, and there's still families and there's still kids out there that are looking for exactly what we have to offer, you know, and we just got to find those kids and find those families that want to buy into us and want to buy into the development process, not only as players but as people, as we, you know, as our mission is here at Baylor, to prepare champions for life and all 4 phases of that. So we're you know, I think we're off to a great start on the recruiting front. I think we're excited about what we have here this year, and we'll see, you know, what happens here in about a month.
You hit the ground running when you guys came in, got the job. Mitch finished out his staff, you know, as quick as possible, and then put the recruiting class together. That was a whirlwind, wasn't it?
It really was. I don't think anything changed but my shirt. that part of the year is awfully busy on that other side too. So I was out and about with the 12 program. I'd been in Cary, North Carolina, and then I was in Palm Beach, Florida when all of that was going on in late June. And I'm going back and forth on what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And, you know, once I finally got home for a day and spoke with Heather, and we decided that, okay, this is where God wants us to be. This is where we're called to be. So at that moment, you know, I think I said yes, signed a contract, watched or did the recruiting test via Zoom, and then I flew to Hoover, Alabama the next day. Yeah. I picked up a duffel bag of Baylor stuff from James in College Station as he was watching games. And then hit the road, and I was gone till, you know, really, I didn't get to Waco until August. Yeah. You know, the beginning of August.
That's right.
But I was kind of all over the place trying to figure it out. But, you know, I think we're really excited about what we were able to do in a short time in that 23 class. Yeah. Whether we were solidifying some of the guys that the other staff had brought in, or, you know, identifying and recruiting some of our own. And we took some no's. You know, being in the situation I was in, we knew a lot of guys, and we got them here. We just couldn't get them to say yes. Sure. Yeah. So, but they happen to be the best guys. So, you know, we're the respect they had for us and for who we were to get them on campus at that period of time was a big deal, I thought. And we'll start to get some yeses out of that crew eventually. So
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. Have you found it easier to be able to recruit to a place like Baylor, speaking from your experiences compared to the other coaches you were at?
There's no doubt. My last experience here in 2012 taught me that. You know, I had been at the University of Iowa, which I'm an Iowa kid, and you know, I loved working for Coach Jack Dom up there and the staff. But there's something different when it's kind of a part of you, and it's inside of you, and you know what it's all about. Yeah. You know what it did for your life, and when you can sell that whole vision from start to finish, I think you really win the parents over. Yeah. I think they go, okay, like this is about way more than my son coming to play baseball here. And then I think the kids, if it's the right kid, you know, they're into that. Yeah. They want to hear that. They want to be a part of the family thing. You know, I'll steal Coach Aranda's, you know, person over player thing. Like, people want that. There's a place for that in all of this. And, you know, if you throw out social media, if you throw out NIL, if you throw out the transfer portal, like, that's what it's all about. Yeah. You know, and once, you know, once the kids realize that, then those are the ones we're probably going to end up with and go to bat with.
Zach Dillon, our guest, Baylor baseball assistant coach, and glad to have him with us on the Sikkim podcast powered by Rogue Media Network. I've had the privilege of calling games like Zach's games going back, telling stories about Baylor athletics for a long time. Storytelling is an art, and there's a network in town doing just that. Rogue Media Network has produced over 80 original podcasts and shows ranging from comedy, true crime, business, and sports. If there's a story to tell, Rogue Media Network is telling it. You can find this podcast and all the other great Rogue Media Network shows on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right, can we go back? Can we tell some stories? Let Zach tell some stories.
I was hoping we'd do that.
Here's what I really wanted to, a lot of things to talk to Zach about. But you were here 2003 to 2006. Then you said came back 2012. But 03-06 during your playing career. Great career here.
Yeah.
Great career. I mean, think about the catchers we've had here at Baylor. You're part of a great lineage of guys at that catcher position.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we rolled off some good ones.
Yeah.
Starting really, I'd probably start with Brian Loeb, who I got to know as a player here when he came back for to finish up school, and Kelly Shopik and Josh Ford and myself and Greg Glime and Josh Ludy and, oh, by the way, Shea Langley.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, I'm proud to be a part of that, and I think we're all proud of that. And that's something we hope the guys we have on campus are gonna continue on. And we're fortunate to have 2 returners back there this year and a couple good freshmen behind them, and Mazak and Polk, and but we're going to lean on Kaylee and Castle's leadership back there, and hope they can continue that lineage of good players back there.
Yeah.
But Coach Johnigan, I got to give him a lot of credit. He did such a good job in player development, and he did such a good job developing the catchers that I've taken so much from him over my time, and been able to add to it and modernize it at times, and I think he's certainly a guy I look back on as one of the great teachers I've ever been around.
Isn't it great? He's still around.
He's still around.
Coaching other side.
That's right.
Side of the Esplanade there at softball, but it's great to have Hoot still around.
It really is. It's and I'm sure there's going to come times in our situation here where Mitch is going to lean on him, and I'm going to lean on him, and
no question.
I think there's great value in that relationship.
So 03-06 includes the 2005 World Series team, which was spectacular. Won the Big 12, won the Super Regional here over Clemson, and then go to the College World Series. Help me if I remember this right. You beat Texas 4 times that year?
We beat them 4 times.
4 times.
Swept them in the regular season.
Yep.
Beat them in the tournament.
Yep.
And then we would have traded 2 of those for the 2.
Exactly. And then Katy ran into Texas at the College World Series.
Goodness
That
gracious.
year, there were 3 Big 12 schools there.
Us, Nebraska, and Texas.
Yep.
Wow.
In the College World Series, and then lost to Texas twice. They eventually won it. But part of the World Series, the highlight for anybody that remembers it is that Tulane game. Tulane, number 1 seed, coming in. You guys were down 7-0.
7-0 in the 7th. I think we
in
had
the 7th inning.
We had 9 outs to play with. They got out to a 5-0 lead early, and I believe Corey Van Allen was on the mound and was able to kind of hold them down somewhat after the initial punch. But then Abe Woody came in and finished the game through 5 scoreless, I believe,
nice. which
kept us in the game.
Wow.
And we played some really aggressive baseball in the last 3 innings of that game. Down 7, we're down 7-0. You're not trying to steal third base very often.
Yeah.
Right.
But we did the things we needed to do to get ourselves back in the ball game. I think we just kind of chipped away at it. It may have been 7-2 after the 7th, and 7-4 or 7-5 after the 8th, and then the 9th, we get the first 2 guys on, and I'm coming to the plate, and Coach Thompson and I kind of made eye contact, like, man, I don't want to bunt.
Yeah.
Like, hey, don't take the bat out of my hands right here, And I don't think they wanted me to either, so we put on a fake bunt / hit and run, and the goal of that play is to hit the ball on the ground out of the middle of the field, and they were sold out to the bunt. Their All-American first baseman was, had crashed, and I was able to chop a ball over his head down the right field line, and then Paul Witt gets the ball in play with 2 strikes, I believe, and beats out a double play ball. They throw it away, and I score, and we win.
Yeah.
So, kind of a crazy, that was a really, really good Tulane team.
Yeah.
I think Hall of Fame coach Rick Jones said that was the worst loss in his career.
Wow.
It was one of those nights that, I can vividly remember, being a goal and a dream to play in the College World Series, and then have a moment like that there was really special. Something you can take with you forever.
Yeah.
And, pretty exciting, cool stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah.
So, Katy, the iconic picture of Baylor scoring the game-winning run coming from 7-0 down. It's this guy, Zach Dillon, scoring the game-winning run.
Amazing.
Yes. Isn't that great?
That is incredible.
Oh, what a memory.
That is me.
Yeah.
That is me. Yep. And I watched the video. It's amazing I didn't blow my knee out or my hamstring.
Yeah.
And those guys got to me.
Celebrating.
But it was it was a great moment. I think I was walking on air at the time, probably.
Man, so having that feeling, being able to kind of taste a piece of that, how much does that make this staff want that more?
Well, I think we're all driven that way.
Yeah.
Just if you're in this profession and you're in it at the level we're at, that's inside of you a little bit. That's what keeps us going. And that and the relationships with the players, because we all want to be the best we can absolutely be. And if there's nothing driving you on a daily basis or motivating you on a daily basis, like those kind of moments, and what are we doing it for? But at the same time, you're within all of that, you're chasing something together with a group, which I think we all crave too. And within all of that, we all get better. It's kind of the iron sharpens iron on a daily basis with the players and the coaches. Like, hey, we're chasing this thing, and our motto this year is together, and I think it'll be our motto most years, because anything worth doing is, something that you want to be connected on and together on. And I've just always believed that as a son of a football coach, you kind of have those traits and those values as you grow up, teamwork and hard work and discipline and accountability to something bigger than yourself. I think all those things are important life traits and values that our guys can carry with them forever. But it certainly drives our coaching staff day in and day out too.
Yeah, you mentioned your dad being a coach, and then your master's degree in education while you were here. Was that kind of from day one what you always saw yourself doing?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be in. I told my mom when I was like 10 years old. She's like, "Well, what do you think you want to do when you grow up?" And it was like, "Well, all I know is I'll be in a dugout the rest of my life."
I love that.
And in my mind, it was like, because I think I was realistic to the fact that it was really hard to play in the big leagues pretty early in life. But I told her I wanted to be in the dugout the rest of my life. So that could be as a coach or a player or whatever, whatever the case may be. So far, so good. I haven't had to stray, but we'll try to keep that magic going. I just think it's really surreal some days being here and all this happening and coming to fruition, but we're certainly not lost on our mission at hand either.
Yeah.
So formal practice for you guys starts this week on Friday for the new season, the season opener February 17th, not that far away.
Wow.
So explain to our listeners what's that like when you can finally get to this point and kind of that sprint from here to the season opener.
Yeah, it's turned into a bigger sprint.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Yeah.
We've been in our 8-hour work week where we get 4 hours of skill instruction, 4 hours of strength and conditioning time, and we've really had to use that time, intelligently. Whether it be pitcher, catcher, hitters, making sure our arms are ready to go because we're going to inter-squad day one tomorrow. We'll play tomorrow and make sure our guys are getting at bats, make sure we're getting live reads off the bat, make sure our arms are getting built up for, less than a month from now, being able to go out and play a 3-game series against a really good club. So, we'll inter-squad this weekend, and as it was a 3-game series, as much as our pitchers' arms are built up, you're probably looking at more of a 7-inning inter-squad scenario, but we'll take our pregame BP and our pregame in and out, and we'll continue to install offense and team defense scenarios throughout. But it's a busy time, and then you talk about our scouting reports for upcoming opponents, and fortunately now in college baseball, with some technology and some advances, Synergy allows us to do some scouting stuff that once upon a time didn't exist,
Right.
which, is great. You feel more prepared for your opponents, and your kids should be more prepared and know what's coming at them a little bit more. But at the same time, it's an added workload, and which is great for us to have that. But it does take time to sit down and go through all that. So we're hard at that. And then, as any new staff, goes through anything, we're sitting in the office yesterday. Okay, who's going to feed us?
Right.
What are we going to do for pregame? What are we going to do for postgame? What are we going to do on the road? How are we going to structure that? So we've had a fair amount of meetings through the winter, going through all that. So it's not, just a cram session at the very end, but we're just spending every day trying to prepare as intelligently as we can, so we can focus on what's important when the time comes.
For those who haven't had the chance to take a look at y'all's schedule, what are kind of some of those big premier matchups y'all are excited about here in Waco?
Well, Central Michigan, which most people probably don't know, they won 43 ball games last year.
Wow.
They're picked to win the MAC. They lost in the Gainesville Regional last year to a really good Florida team.
Huh. Who made that schedule?
It wasn't us.
I was going to say.
But the good news is, we're outside right now, and they're not.
True.
So,
Yeah.
it's. But I'm sure they know how to prepare up there.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to, it's actually a really good opponent for us, an NCAA tournament team coming in right away, and we've got a new club, but I think it's a group we can match up with. So, we're gonna go out there and hopefully throw strikes and make the routine play and compete at the plate and have a much better feel for who we are, after weekend number
Sure.
one, because when you're playing each other and some days the pitchers win and you're like, man, we're not going to hit. And then some days the hitters win and you're like, man, we can't pitch. You'd like to know, like, kind of what we got and what we are.
That's right.
Which sometimes takes lining up against somebody else to do it. But
Yeah.
It'll be good to get that one going and underway and kind of know where we're at a little bit with our personnel. And I've always been a believer that players get 10% better, 10% worse in competition, like when the games start, when you're playing somebody else, like who can elevate who they are or who shies away from it. And I think the guys that shy away from it can always get better with that, because I think there is a fear of failure component at this level that creeps in at times, and I think once you get a player beyond that is when you get the actual player at their best. So we've got a lot of new guys, so we're about to learn a lot. We've got a lot of guys that haven't played much college baseball at all, and they're going to have to go out there and play for us. So I think that bodes well for the future, because they're guys we like and they're talented guys, but they're not guys that have been out there in the fire a whole lot. So we're about to see what we're made out of, and that'll be good. From there we'll go out to Duke and play a formidable ACC opponent in their place, and have to go through travel for the first time, and have to go through the bus ride and the flight and another bus ride and practice on the road and how we're going to go about all that. So we'll learn a lot that weekend about who we are and how we handle those things, how we handle a different environment. I think 18 of our first 21 are at home, so that's a necessary weekend for us. Going into Big 12 play, another good opponent. So, and then we'll come back here in Youngstown State and Mercer for the following 2 weekends. So I believe Mercer was an NCAA tournament team last year as well. So, we certainly, it's a good schedule. I think it's a really well put together, balanced schedule for our pre-Big 12 stuff for year one. I really do. But we're excited. I don't think we're ever going to shy away from anybody, but at the same time, in year one with a bunch of new guys, you like some games that you feel like you match up well in. So, and I think we've got that.
A lot of home games.
A lot of home games. 36 home games, I believe.
Right.
So,
right.
I know we're fired up. We've sold a fair amount of season tickets.
Yeah.
So, we're continuing to push that forward, and it just Coach Drew says it all the time, but the energy that fans can bring to a ballpark or
makes a difference,
or an event, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
It makes a difference to the kids. It makes a difference to the opponent. And it can create an environment that's really difficult to play in for the other guys, which is ideally what we want.
Yeah. Well, Mitch would slap us if we didn't mention season tickets because he's been so good at pushing.
He would slap
season
us.
tickets. He might.
Okay. We better mention them then.
Yes, but season tickets available, BaylorBears.com/tickets, 254-710-1000. And I feel a real energy around the program just with you and Mitch and Jim Blair and everybody coming back. But with Mitch coming back, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about the program going in.
Well, I think what those guys were able to do, and by those guys I'm talking about Smitty and Mitch and Hoot, is they created a culture here that, you know, I hate to say it at the time, it was a baseball school.
Yeah,
you know, and
it's a good point. It was.
And, you know, for the rest of the athletic department really hadn't caught up yet.
Yeah.
And they were doing things at a level, I think nationally, that was ahead, you know, and I think the people around here jumped on board pretty quick. And I think there was a desire and an urge to have that back. But I think more importantly than anything, what those guys did was engage a community and a fan base and an alumni base that maybe was the most important. I mean, you talk about three pretty personable guys that were likable and did their job at a really high level on a day in and day out basis. It's easy to support. So I think what we've got in that office over there now is a replica of that, hopefully.
Yeah.
I hope they like me. I don't know. But I do think, you know, there's some personality over there and some dynamic qualities that people will gravitate towards, and you know, we're going to put a product on the field that people like to watch. You know, we're going to play hard. We're going to play with some passion and some energy and some toughness. And I hope that's appealing. You know, I think, you know, winning games always helps.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you know, hopefully we can get that ball rolling quicker, you know, than later. But I think those things are a big part of creating fan base and creating an environment. So a lot of that's on us.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think
who we are as people, how we do on the field, how our teams represent themselves. You know, the passion and care that kids play with. I think all those things are appealing to what we have here in Central Texas.
Yeah, you talked about that alumni base, and John and I get to work daily with Cody Hall, Jake Baskin,
right,
but just to hear of how many guys come back to y'all's events and just the involvement. I mean, I know all Baylor Athletics alumni are involved, but it feels like y'all do have something special. Like, what do you think that comes from? Just the relationships with the coaches or the time here?
I think so. I think the relationships with the coaches. I think our time here, you know, Baylor's a unique place. And I think, you know, Baylor baseball at the time was a pretty big fraternity of sorts, you know, within the community, within, you know, outlying areas. Like the guys that played here before us came back, and we got to know those guys. And then the guys, you know, that just kept infiltrating, you know, throughout the generations. And I think, you know, that stuff matters.
Yeah.
And I think a fair amount of that went away for a while. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. I don't think you know what you know or what you don't know. You can't be blamed for that. So, but I do think it's important. I think it's what makes it special. I think it's what makes it unique, and I think it's what we've got a really good chance of attaining again. But yeah, you know, Cody, Paul Thorpe, Jake Baskin, like there's a significant, you know, Baylor baseball alumni base still here.
That's right.
You know,
That's
myself, Jim Blair, you know, that are still working at the university, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, those are guys like that I personally spend a lot of time with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, I think that part's cool, and I hope we can make all those guys proud. I mean, that's really the goal is to take care of your kids on campus and make the guys that came before them proud.
Yeah.
You know, and if we can do those two things, I think we're doing a heck of a job.
That's awesome.
Very well said. Zach, good luck getting the season going. We appreciate visiting with you, and thanks for your time. And we're glad you're back, man. It is great. It is exciting for Baylor baseball.
Well, I'm excited too, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Have you been looking for a new podcast to listen to? Are you interested in true crime, funny one-star reviews, or inspiring stories? What about the history of Waco or the famous people who have lived and worked here? All these and more are produced by Rogue Media Network. There are over 80 different shows, including this one, with more coming all the time. If there is a story to tell, Rogue Media Network is telling it. Watch on YouTube or listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, that was fun, Katy. It's baseball, softball season is here. All the spring sports getting going, but gosh, isn't it fun?
It is fun. Love having Zach back, and I think it was so cool at the end there to hear him talk about the different people that work here at Baylor and just how that speaks to their experience and wanting to come back and wanting to give back, and he's just such a great example of that. Yeah. So what a blessing for us to have him here. It
is huge. Season opener February 17th at Baylor Ballpark. Mitch, season tickets are available now. 254-710-1000 or online at BaylorBears.com/tickets. That would apply to baseball and softball season tickets. The season is right around the corner. That's our Sic 'Em podcast for this week, powered by Rogue Media Network. For Katy Smith, for Zach Dillon, I'm John Morris. Thanks for being with us. Talk to you next week with our next Sic 'Em podcast.
You've been listening to the Sic 'Em podcast, powered by Rogue Media Network. The Sic 'Em podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics.